when you are flaring up more, when you're feeling more symptoms in your body, you are more prone to stress. You're more prone to be overwhelmed. Something that came up that didn't really stress you out before, well, now it's really, really stressing you out. And this also applies to the thoughts that you have. Your brain, your nervous system will amplify the things that you're thinking. So if you are dreaming, if you think about dreaming, those are thoughts. Instead of having just a regular, pretty low-key, not intense dream, well, now whatever that is that you're thinking about or dreaming about, even if it's subconscious, it is now amplified. How's it going? Miguel here from CFS Recovery. In this video, I'm gonna be talking about nightmares and dreams in 4K if you're dealing with CFS or long COVID or a hypersensitive nervous system issue. Now, this is a pretty freaky part about recovery because, looking back, I remember these started happening whenever I was in some pretty big flare-ups. Now, if you don't know my story, my name is Miguel. I'm 29 years old currently, but from the ages of 19 to about 24, I was dealing with a lot of debilitating, mysterious symptoms that the doctors couldn't explain. And I went from very fit, personal trainer, just living my best life, able to go out and pretty much do whatever I want, to not even being able to feed myself and actually being in a hospital for about 2 months. In total, I was bedridden for about 8 months straight. It was a very, very rough time. Luckily, I was able to figure out what was going on. I didn't know if I was gonna make it till the next week or the next month. And at that point, I was really just surviving. But today, I'm thriving. I'm able to travel, able to work out and really live my best life and actually live a better life than I previously lived. So I've gone into the trenches. I know what it's like to see multiple doctors, have multiple scans, and have the whole world think you're crazy, but you're dealing with some very debilitating symptoms and you can't seem to figure it out. That's why I created this YouTube channel. So today I'm fully recovered and I'm just sharing my experiences with you in hopes that if you're dealing with one of these issues, you're able to solve it and move on to the next chapter in your life of thriving health. So back to the topic, let's talk about nightmares in 4K. Back when I would flare up, and I had so many flare-ups. I had hundreds of flare-ups throughout my recovery. During my most difficult times, actually, I would have some severe insomnia. I wouldn't sleep for days at a time, but when I did sleep, I remember it's almost like I was lucid dreaming. And if you ever lucid dream before, it's a dream that it feels super realistic. It feels like you're actually there. For example, if I'm dreaming about jogging, then I actually feel like I'm jogging. I feel the wind on my face. I feel my legs getting tired. I feel the thumping in my body. And this would happen quite often, actually, especially when I was having those more intense flare-ups. And so it wasn't happening every single night, but there were windows of times or bouts of time where this became a more common, I guess sometimes it wasn't an issue, but it was very, very interesting. A lot of it was kind of, I don't even know how to describe it. It was just kind of freaky because it was just very, very intense, vivid dreams. It's like the comparison between watching a movie in 480p where it's kind of blurry and the sound is all muffled and everything. It's a comparison between that and watching a movie in 4K in an IMAX theater. It's just a much more intense and vivid experience. And so this is kind of like what the dreams were. So I remember in my dreams, I would usually be running away from something or getting chased by something, or there was some kind of pressure in the dream. And I remember a lot of these dreams, my heart would be pounding, or it's almost like my vision would zoom into the finest details of something. Like if I'm looking at, for example, this iPad over here, if I'm looking down at it, it's almost like my vision would zoom in all the way into the screen and see all the electrical circuits in it. And it's like I was inside the electrical circuits. Anyways, it seemed like it was a pretty crazy experience. And the only way I can really explain this is now that I understand how the nervous system works and the fact that all that I was dealing with was a hypersensitive nervous system issue, especially if you're somebody who has gotten all your tests and scans done and the doctors have ruled out everything and they don't have any explanations for this, or what they're doing isn't working, then it's really a hypersensitive nervous system issue. So when your nervous system is that sensitive, it basically amplifies any sensations or perceptions that you have. So when we're talking about sensations, I'm talking about physical interactions with things. If I ate food, the food tasted more flavorful, and sometimes it was too intense for me. So I couldn't eat spicy food. I couldn't eat very high sugar foods because it would just kind of startle my nervous system. So there was that. Even temperatures, I couldn't handle hot, couldn't handle cold, even physical touch. Like I would get touched on my arm and I would feel pain, sometimes extreme pain. So all these sensations are amplified, but not only that, your perceptions are also amplified. And that's why when you are flaring up more, when you're feeling more symptoms in your body, you are more prone to stress. You're more prone to be overwhelmed. Something that came up that didn't really stress you out before, well, now it's really, really stressing you out. And this also applies to the thoughts that you have. Your brain, your nervous system will amplify the things that you're thinking. So if you are dreaming, if you think about dreaming, those are thoughts. So instead of having just a regular, pretty low key, not intense dream, well now, whatever that is that you're thinking about or dreaming about, even if it's subconscious, it is now amplified. So just like that video analogy I talked about earlier, instead of 480p blurry shot with muffled sound, now it's 4K in an IMAX theater. So it's kind of like how your dreams work. And a lot of times when you are hypersensitive, you are more prone to becoming overwhelmed. So that's why a lot of these dreams, they can feel very, very intense. I remember this one time, it almost felt like a spiritual experience. It's almost like my body or a part of me actually went into another dimension to go to this different world because it was just so real. And I know if you haven't experienced this, then I probably sound like I'm crazy. Or if you have experienced this, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But essentially, there was this dream. I remember I was standing in a circle, there's a bonfire, and I was in this native people tribe, right? And they were all dressed up in feathers and outfits, and they were playing the drums, banging on the drums. And I could feel the thumping in my body every time they hit the drums. And then they would hit it louder and louder and faster and faster. And it's like my heart was pounding with the beat of that. So I don't know if it was my heart pounding and then that led to my brain thinking there's drums in the dream and it created drums, or if it was the other way around. It doesn't really matter, but all I'm trying to say is you are very intertwined in that dream. It's like you are a part of that reality. It almost feels like that's how vivid it is. And they were just some of the craziest dreams. So now I know that if I do dream in 4K and it's consistent, so now I know back in the day, that's what was happening. A lot of these were regular dreams, but they were just amplified. Just like how the nervous system amplifies everything. The nervous system and the brain, they're one and the same. Your brain powers your nervous system, but essentially everything is just amplified. Noise is amplified, light is amplified, touch is amplified, taste, smells. This is why we can be so hypersensitive to different things. And those nightmares that I had, they were both good dreams and pretty awesome dreams where I was like in a jet plane, a fighter pilot, and I could feel like I was gliding through the skies, but there were also pretty scary dreams where I'm getting chased by something to do with trying to survive. Because when I was flaring up, the brain was pretty much in survival mode. So the things I was thinking, even subconsciously, they were all about survival or staying alive or getting away from this thing. For me, I was running away from the symptoms. In my dream, I'm running away from a bear or some people chasing me. But this is actually very, very common. A lot of people get this. They don't get it the whole time during their journey with CFS, but they do have these windows of time where they'll get it for a few days in a row, maybe several days in a row, and they can't really explain it. But the fact that we've seen it so much working with people, all throughout our programs, people talk about this certain window of time in recovery, and it comes and goes, but it's a common thing that happens. And we've seen it all across the board with people with long COVID, fibromyalgia, people with chronic fatigue syndrome. They're experiencing these things. So if you are experiencing this particular challenge in recovery, then just know that you're not the only one dealing with this, and it does go away. Now, something you can do as well is sink into that feeling, lean into it. So once I realized what was happening, I basically treated it as a lucid dream, where I knew that I was in a dream, and a lot of times I would actually get sleep paralysis as well. So sleep paralysis would terrify me growing up. I had it maybe 10 times prior to getting all these CFS symptoms, and then during those CFS days, I would get sleep paralysis maybe every week. And at first I'd freak out about it because you become claustrophobic. You start feeling like you're suffocating. At least I did. And once I realized that, hey, this is happening quite often, let me just lean into it and sink into it and try to enjoy it. So what I did is when I realized that I couldn't move, right, and I couldn't lift up my finger, I couldn't wiggle my toes, instead of screaming for help or trying to fight it, I would say, let's see how deep we can get. Let's see how relaxed I can get. And those have been some of my best sleeps, because when you sink into it and you just take some deep breaths and imagine that that was your goal, I would almost trick myself and say, oh, I'm getting sleep paralysis, I don't know what to do, these monsters are chasing me or whatever, I would say, hey, I'm getting sleep paralysis. But this is a state of ultimate deep relaxation. So I'm gonna take some deep breaths, and the deeper I exhale, I'm actually gonna sink deeper into this and feel my body just sink into this relaxation. And you could almost feel the waves going through your body of relaxation. It's super neat, but that's one way to combat this kind of sleep paralysis that people get. The more you struggle, the more you kind of panic, the more difficult it is to get out of that. And the more stressful that situation is. So you have two options here. Kind of like when it comes to brain retraining, you have two options. It's respond well or panic and freak out. And actually I have a video up here that goes deeper into brain retraining that explains it, how there are basically two routes once you get symptoms. And you can click that link up here because that's gonna break it down really well. But when it comes to dreams, you only have two options, right? And the options are part of the main golden nugget principles of recovering from CFS or long COVID. It's respond well to symptoms or respond well to anything. So if you respond well in your dreams, if you respond well when you feel that sleep paralysis coming on, then you'll come out of it actually a lot better, because you're gonna teach your body that it doesn't have to go into this panic mode, and there's a different route that it can take. That's option one, but option two is if we start to panic and start to, go into this ultimate fear mode, then we restart the cycle and this challenge, this issue will still keep happening. Today, I don't get sleep paralysis. I don't have these dreams in 4K anymore. I have some lucid dreams rarely, but not like how it was before, where I didn't even feel like my body or my mind was sleeping or getting rest at nighttime. Despite my body being asleep, it's like my mind never shut off. And so just know that this is very common. This does go away as you recover from this. Next thing you know, you're gonna be sleeping like a baby, feeling refreshed when you wake up in the morning. So I hope this helps. I hope you got some value out of this. If you did want some extra help in your recovery, if you wanted a personalized plan, that's exactly what we specialize in. We've worked with hundreds of cases from all around the world, and our team has actually been through this themselves and recovered. So we have a predictable, systematic way to get you unstuck on your journey. But if you were interested in that, you can click the link down below. You can apply to see if you're a good fit for one of our programs. But always remember, you are a thriver and you are just one mind shift away from living life with thriving health. I'll see you in the next video.
I'd say that CFS recovery is absolutely the real deal.
I actually felt like somebody had answered, like somebody explained what was going on, and it all clicked.